out. This study conducted in Hong Kong attracts some of your attention, and colleagues from the UK, from Europe are interested in this study. I'm very pleased to know about this. So this is based on a multiple case study. My name is Tracy Zhou. I worked as an assistant professor in the Department of Educational Administration and Policy at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. But the study was conducted when I was at a different university. So perhaps these can be confusing because the previous university was called the University of Hong Kong and now the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Okay, very nice meeting you all. Here, let's start. So this is the paper Dagny was referring to when she introduced me. So it was on intercultural interactions in Chinese classroom. But let me clarify, this Chinese, I mean Hong Kong. I was at the study, the whole study was conducted in Hong Kong. And you may see that it was not a very recent study. It was a few years ago. But the invitation from Dagny brought me so many fresh memories when I conducted this study. Why? Because it was situated in a very complex, controversial socio-cultural environment. People who know about Hong Kong, who read news about Hong Kong will remember what happened in 2019, 2020, where there were many protests happening on Hong Kong streets. Of course, the protests and the content, the motivation are out of the scope of today's discussion. But one thing it creates, or the result, one consequence of it is an intensified tensions between local and non-local orientations and communities. Okay, I hope this makes you somehow curious about what happened. So let's start. This is a picture that people often use to represent Hong Kong's future as East meets West. You know, Hong Kong was a British colony and was handed over to China in 1997. So that historical development naturally creates East meeting West. I was actually born in Shanghai, so a big city in Eastern China. And comparing Hong Kong to China, I would say Hong Kong preserves a lot more cultural tradition, Chinese cultural traditions, than Shanghai does. And so intercultural interaction or internationalization is always a priority in Hong Kong. You may notice a recent news that from 2026 to 2027, the quota, the enrollment cap for non-local students at public funded universities in Hong Kong will rise from 40% to 50%. To give you a background information, previously it was 20% for over 15 years. So it was in the recent 3 years, the cap increases from 20 to 40 and now to 50, reflecting an ambition for Hong Kong to position itself as an international education hub, especially for its higher education. So it aggressively or ambitiously tries to attract students from Asia and from the world. There are already some achievements reported in the government document. As of 2025, 1 in every 4 students of UGC-funded program, UGC means University Grants Committee, are from outside Hong Kong. And over 77,000 non-local students enrolled in UGC-funded universities, also referred to as public-funded universities. And we have students over 100 countries enrolled in these undergraduate degree programs. And also 70% of academic staff are from outside Hong Kong. By the way, I'm not one of them. They classify classify it according to passports. So I am in the 30% for your interest. You may wonder why my classroom study needs so much background information before I start to talk about my study. I think it's really important to inform readers or audiences here in this team room that there is a background to this intercultural interaction study. Hong Kong's very promising intercultural or internationalization efforts today has a background back in 2019 situated in intensive tensions. You see, these are the protesters on street. As I said, the political development is outside the sharing of today's session, but the consequence cause a lot of tensions between local and non-local people, and this can be seen visibly in our classroom. If you are a university lecturer in 2019 or 2020 in Hong Kong, you would be very careful not to mention intercultural interaction, not to mention Hong Kong and mainland Chinese students should work together. That becomes something sensitive at that specific time. So when I uh, did the study, I have colleagues and friends asking me, Tracy, are you really going to do this study? Are you worrying that you may not get any results, but cause a lot of issues because people do not want to talk about interaction, especially intercultural interaction at that time. But I don't know why I did that. Anyway, by the fact is I completed this study, but now I recall, whoa, there were so many controversies and sensitive issues I needed to pay attention to. I wouldn't say that I've handled it very well, but there are definitely lessons learned. Anyway, let's first show you the student profile at the University of Hong Kong, where and when the study was conducted. That was 2018 to 19. And remember, I said the quota for non-local was capped at 20% for 15 years. So at that time, we still have Hong Kong local taking 78%, and we have 10%, we had 10% mainland Chinese students. These are the undergraduates and also students from all over the world, different continents. This is the actual background when the study was conducted. But I know some of the colleagues may be especially interested in what is happening today. So today, this is the latest profile I just downloaded yesterday from Hong Kong U, the University of Hong Kong's website. You can see the non-local students, but particularly Chinese mainland students, increased to 22%. It was 10% around 6 years ago. Now it's 22%, and the percentage of Hong Kong local students decreased to 60 to 6, still the majority, but you can see the change over these around 6 to 7 years. And another very interesting thing that I always introduce when talking about intercultural interaction or internationalization in Hong Kong is it's amazing to find out several of Hong Kong's universities are listed at the top of the most international universities in the world by Times Higher Education. And this doesn't just happen this year, 2025, 2026. It's actually the trend over a number of years. So you see, I'm sure colleagues would imagine if you are inside the system, inside Hong Kong, sometimes you really question, are we really the most international universities? Let's keep this question open. And after reading my findings, maybe you will have some more answers or clues to this question. Okay, sorry for this very long introduction, although I think it's necessary to give the background. That's indeed a long introduction. Let's go to the main body of the study. So we recognize that cultural diversity can be an asset in classrooms. So we want to encourage intercultural interactions. I'm sure colleagues here in this room wouldn't need any more convincing arguments that intercultural interactions are beneficial to student learning. But we are also reminded that it can be a problem if students are not provided with guidance or instruction or support on these introductions. So we can fairly say diversity is a double-edged sword. So that's one motivation. And so long time ago, or more than 20 years ago, scholars have already told us placing students in the same room, seating them together, telling them, okay, you are a group, does not mean that they will work together effectively. That's also my observation over more than 10 years of teaching in higher education in different universities in Hong Kong. And the other motivation linked to the background, this is a quality audit report. In Hong Kong, we have periodic quality audit report of every public funded university every 6 years. So our teacher and learning strategies are largely formed based on these reports. So at 2016, 3 years before the study, the QAC report, the audit report pointed out that although we have wonderful internationalization, but the classroom have not really prepared students for intercultural interactions. Those pedagogies in the classroom haven't really exploited cultural background and experiences or taken account of cultural sensitivities. So they request, the auditing team requests the university to enrich learning experience for all students. So really, we see the importance of intercultural interactions in classrooms. So despite all the controversies I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, I still carry out the study. So some more literature review. So this is not a new problem. Colleagues over and over again, scholars reminded that sometimes international students are not provided with favorable conditions for engagement. Sometimes interaction happen very at a surface level, little meaningful engagement. It's like hi and bye in the classroom. And also, the literature shows some simple approach to cultural diversity. Some professors or instructors tend to be neutral, not doing anything regarding the diversity. Some looking at the common approach or what might be effective for all people, not considering their differences. That's the similarity approach. And some professors pay attention to the diversity more carefully, and some combine the attention to diversity and similarity. These frameworks are useful, but they haven't really provided a very solid instruction design, a reference for instruction design that can cultivate intercultural interaction. So I go on with looking at some more recent, not really recent now, but at that time, still recent to me, at that specific time some more framework that can support me in developing intercultural interaction instructional design. And I found Kudo and the colleagues framework really useful. It emphasizes the affordance we need to purposefully design instruction, but it also encourages or stimulates student agency. So the beauty of this approach is the effectiveness happens at the experiential interface, the specific learning situations that integrate affordance and agency, or let these two meet at a beautiful time, at a suitable moment. So this basically inspires the framework, the approach I adopt. And also, when I did the study, I also look at the literature. I found that most literature describing international students as problematic. I know this is long being criticized, but still it's the fact that many literature portray international students as having language barriers and difficulties in adapting to active learning. But looking at my environment at the University of Hong Kong, the international students in this study having language advantages, especially fluent in English and more used to active learning. So I immediately saw a contribution to the scholarship, not just to teaching and learning contribution, but also I think doing this study can contribute to the literature. So that's also lay down some foundation for me. And also, of course, we read a lot of myths about Chinese students. Many of them are debunked, tackled. But still, if you ask someone, what do you think of Chinese students? Perhaps they still will respond to you that, oh, they are probably a little bit passive, quiet, do not want to group with international students when doing group assignments, or they do not want to lose face, because in Chinese culture, face saving is something important. We don't want to get embarrassed. Um, Okay, so the two research questions for this study are: what meaningful intercultural interactions occur in the classrooms of the selected courses in four disciplines: social science, science, architecture, and law? And I further asked, how does the interaction between affordances, those instructional design, and the student agency in specific learning situations support these interactions? So regarding methodology, multiple case study, and each of these courses constitutes one case. And then data were collected from interviews with teachers, a focus group interviews with students, and class observations in each course. And the data analysis consists of within each course and across different courses. And this table, also the same in the paper, shows you an overview of the data collected. And you can see some data are collected within this multiple case study framework. But I also collect some additional data to get more teachers' views in order to help me make sense of the findings. And that's quite a lot of work, especially classroom observations. When I worked at this project, I only have one research assistant, and we took turns to do the observation, and yeah, significant amount of time was involved. And the data analysis, open coding of those transcripts from interviews, focus groups, and the observation notes. And also we categorize them into themes, reviewing and refining the theme according to the conceptual framework, and comparing across cases to identify patterns that transcend or that is beyond any local context, local course context. So some overall patterns. Well, these intercultural interactions contain complex process, and there were indeed separation between locals and non-locals, and the superficial interaction were observed. Those reported in the literature were also observed in some of our interviews. But don't be disappointed yet. There are also many instances where meaningful interactions were evident and we documented them. And contrary to most literature, international students in this study were seen by teachers and their peers as more active and keener in participating in the learning activities. This table shows detailed themes and examples of intercultural interactions that we identify as meaningful. So we don't include the not meaningful ones. So these are the themes we actually want to promote. And please, when you look at the example, please remember that's one example of how that theme was amplified. So I'm not saying if you want to do critique, you must do it in this way. You can definitely adapt it to your course context and purposes. So the first theme we found, meaning one theme, meaning a moment or a situation where intercultural interactions happen meaningfully. So the first theme I want to introduce to you is critique. And in an example, students were encouraged to share their homework, and the teacher established a structure in which one or two peers from a different cultural background were invited to provide critiques of the homework with an emphasis on cultural perspective. And this doesn't happen in all disciplines. In architecture, this doesn't happen. So we found in three out of the four courses, this theme appeared. And the second is to ask students to take a position and defend that position among peers. Colleagues here may think, well, that's very simple. That's a typical thing a college student does, is to take a position and defend it among peers. Not really, because I found students do have difficulties in taking their position and defending it. So the specific example we picked is that students were asked to research a range of perspectives about a controversial issue before the class, not in the class, because it would be too demanding. And during the class, these perspectives were presented and students were asked to discuss them with their neighbors, take a position and vote for their choices, and followed by a debriefing. This happened in all disciplines. And the third is exploring, evaluating multiple perspectives and reach an informed solution. And students were asked to form culturally mixed groups and worked on a project. And this project is carefully designed that it must be tackled from multiple perspectives. And students examine all the perspectives they can think of and discuss and evaluate their relevance, finally reached a solution. And the fourth, it's very interesting. This is only found in social sciences discipline. And the students were introduced to senior students and alumni, or you can say from a previous cohort, who shared their experience of undertaking an intercultural project in the same course in the previous year. And the students in the current cohort reflected on their experiences and share this reflection. Number 5 is to contribute to contributing individuals' culturally related knowledge and learning from peers. And an example is to ask students to identify a topic in the local community and determine whether solutions from other contexts could be applied to tackle the issue. And local and international, here international includes mainland Chinese, supported each other in understanding the topic based on their own knowledge and experience. And then we have something that colleagues may be particularly interested is related to the tension I introduced in the introduction. During that time on the campus, it's almost a taboo not to talk about the tension. But in some of these intercultural interaction instruction, some professors intentionally ask students to research the division or the tension between local and international students on campus. And the views from different students of different backgrounds were solicited, analyzed, and discussed in class. This is a bold thing to do in normal times, not to mention in the sensitive times in 2019 and 20. And the final theme is also related to this sensitive environment. Students were assigned to research a topic by choosing an angle connected to their individual interest and identity, and then they present to the whole class and they received feedback. Okay, hope you are not bored by the 7 patterns or 7 themes. And they all point out to the framework I base my study on. That's affordance, agency, and the interface. So when you read this finding like openness and trust, empowerment and confidence, I encourage you to read it in pairs because what I meant to express is that openness is the affordance created by the instructor, while trust is the student part, is student exhibit or show trust as the result of an open environment. So you can see the first quote, the teacher realized critiques can be very challenging. He realized students don't like that at all. He knows he need to gain students' trust, and then he created the atmosphere, the structure, making students feel comfortable in critiquing, in sharing their critical comments. And the same applies to next pair. So when the teacher prepares to empower students, gives students confidence, and the confidence was gradually built. And you can use the same pattern to interpret structure and space. By the way, in Chinese or Hong Kong classroom, structure is really important. So students don't like dead air, and when there is dead air, they don't know how to respond and how to act. And the facilitator always creates a structure for students to take turns or speak or help support their peers. And the final pair is modeling and amplifying. The modeling can be done by the teacher or sometimes by the international students in the classroom, showing how critical comments can be conveyed in an intercultural interactive moment, and that was amplified in the whole classroom, attracting all students to participate. So the implications from all these complicated findings are, let's design learning situation for meaningful intercultural interactions to happen, and avoid a situation that you give a team project and then you say, students, find someone from a different culture to work together and go on, and I will see you in 3 weeks' time. That will not work. I'm sorry. That will just not work according to my findings. And we have to prepare students for their attitudes, skills to work with peers of various backgrounds. And we must value contributions from all students. And we need to create opportunities, not let them to find the opportunities. We create opportunities for them to prepare their responses and sometimes practice their speeches. And the concluding remarks, I think intercultural interactions can definitely enhance learning when the instructional designs align with students' agency. The design, the agency, and the effectiveness happen in the interface. And the overall inclusive atmosphere is essential. And I found creating some structure actually helps students to speak and interact rather than depriving their autonomy or suppressing them. So the structure is really preferred by students and is found very useful. Okay, so as I promised in my LinkedIn, if you read them, we actually have a 52-page guidebook specifically designed for teachers with the specific situations, multiple case studies. And if you are interested, just respond to 2 simple questions and you can download the guidebook for free. Actually, I really appreciate colleagues coming to this presentation. So even if you skip the 2 questions secretly, just skip them and press forward. You can still download the guidebook for free. Okay, so it's up to you. But the 2 questions is for me to understand who are interested in this guidebook. So make your own decision about whether you want to download it and whether you want to answer the 2 simple questions. I will come back to this soon in case you need time to download. But I just want to show you the reference and thank you for listening. And I can be contacted this email. And thank you so much for your time. I welcome any advice, feedback, and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so